Well, folks, Battlegrounds is getting a new mechanic called Buddies. Each hero is getting a special unit just for them with an effect that synergizes with that hero. And there's been a bunch already revealed with a lot more on the way. Apparently, there are going to be 75 buddies because there's 75 heroes in Battlegrounds. So over the next few days, we're going to be reviewing all these minions. As always, I like to spend a little time in Battlegrounds whenever there's some new content updates, just exploring all the new stuff. So these are the buddies. How do you get a buddy? Well, each hero is going to have a new little button next to their portrait that will charge up throughout the course of a game based on little incremental things you do throughout the game, dealing damage, popping shields, even getting ties, winning battles. It's going to charge up. After it gets halfway through, you're going to get one copy of your buddy, and when it gets fully completed, you're going to get 2 additional copies of your buddy, essentially allowing you to triple it up into a golden version. So this is going to encourage high tempo gameplay in Battlegrounds because you're going to want to win and deal damage so that you can charge up your meter faster. And the faster you charge it up, that's going to help you snowball off the back of getting free resources and often very powerful synergistic effects. So I think this is dramatically going to alter what exactly Battlegrounds looks like. Currently, we have this kind of like greedy battleground system. Let's go for tier 4, tier 5 stuff, avenge stuff. Let's milk, as people call it, playing for the future. This might encourage us for a higher tempo, a more straightforward style of Battlegrounds that's a little bit less greedy. We don't have all the details on when exactly you're going to be unlocking your buddies on average, but they each have different tiers, and the higher the tier, the longer it'll take you to get your buddy and essentially charge up your meter. I've seen estimates from basically like turn 5 up to turn 11, and there will be ranges just depending on each individual battle and how much progress you're making. But essentially in the mid game, you'll be getting your buddies, and you might be getting the extra versions pretty much near the late game in many cases. So that said, let's talk about these buddies. Kicking it off here with Mukla. He's getting Crazy Monkey, a tier 2 buddy. It reads, after you feed a minion a banana, give it +1/+1. So of course Mukla's getting multiple bananas, and this guy's just going to help you scale up minions even faster. So the bananas are already buffing those stats on things like Divine Shield or Cleave minions. If you're able to leave this guy on board for a long time, you could really pump some bananas into something and get a big carry minion essentially. Much easier than Mukla already provides, and Mukla does that okay. Now, as with all these buddies, there's going to be a theme here, right? Where it's like this minion itself is likely not going to be something you want to keep forever because the stats are low. It is like something that helps you scale, but probably not as well as other just great units like brands, for instance, are still probably going to help you advance your build faster because, there's only a limited number of bananas and they're only hitting 1 minion at a time. So you're going to have these dilemmas where it's like, man, how long can I keep this? Is this something I just have for a few turns? Do I keep it there forever? And it's going to be an important decision. Some buddies are going to be much easier to sell, as you'll see. Others are going to be tougher. And then you also have to say, am I going to keep this to triple it up? I got to hold it long enough to get the next 2. That might also be a problem as well. So a lot of decision and strategy implemented in these buddies. And these that take a little longer to kind of snowball or scale up, and you might need them on board for multiple turns, they make me nervous because they're taking up that board spot, competing against higher statted or sometimes even higher value minions. Now, in some cases, like if this is a beast, that might fit into a beast comp okay and kind of line up. But if you don't have beasts, you don't hit beasts, it might be really tough to keep your Crazy Monkey around, giving it essentially diminishing returns. I promise I'm not going to talk this long about every minion. That was just an important thing to get out. So moving over to my F here, we have a Battle Cry based buddy, the Shadow Warden. This one, your next hero power makes the target golden, and it awakens 1 turn faster, which seems completely insane to me. My Ev already really good at farming triples, making things dormant, stacking up those triples, scaling up her tier, and then hitting some really powerful golden rewards. And this is going to make that even easier to do because you're just making a golden minion right off the bat. So the Shadow Warden gives you a free triple essentially, and sometimes it could be a really high value golden as well essentially. If you just get a nice like tier 4 avenge unit in the shop or something, right when you hit this, like boom, I'm gonna have like a build around ready to go just off Shadow Warden that's hitting in a couple turns. And then the golden version just scales it up. This one's going to be a little bit more awkward to use. I think you might just be using this to find like a key tier 6, drop that Maexna in or whatever. the fact that it's golden is just a bonus to get another Maxna or a Caligos or whatever. More like a finishing touch, because this will come around later in a combat, probably less setting you up for success, but just, you know, putting that finishing touch, finding that triple, key tier 6, whatever it might be. But in both cases, this looks absolutely insane to me. And it's a tier 2, so it's coming quickly. Shadow Warden just sounds bonkers crazy. I don't know how this is possible. It seems too good. Moving on here to Magnus Mana Storm. So first off, this is the sickest looking card. I love the look of this dude. Tier 2 buddy here for Millhouse. It reads, after you buy a minion, add one of the same tavern tier to Bob's Tavern. So Millhouse, essentially, you know, you're buying a lot, you hate rolling. This essentially gives you kind of a soft roll. You know, you're getting to look at more stuff while still buying things. And of course, that can increase your odds of tripling, because you might get the same sort of stuff offered over and over again. All in all, it's another one, though, that's really pricey to keep on board. You got to stick this for a long time if you want to get a big return on investment, especially if you want to save it until it's golden. So I have a feeling this is one where it's like you might just get one turn out of it where you hope for some good results, and then you kind of have to ditch it along the way, maybe 2 or 3 turns max. But it seems like a pretty high price to pay here for still a fairly inconsistent result, and just sort of some slight flexibility and choice upside that might be too pricey. Now, that said, Millhouse is a pretty high tempo hero. You often overwhelm people early because you're buying minions more efficiently, which might help you charge your meter faster, which means Millhouse might be one of the heroes that's most likely to get a completed buddy sooner than others. And maybe this comes down in time that it's still fine to keep for a few turns, because, you know, 4/4 is not super competitive, but it's not a huge sacrifice to make if you're hitting this earlier rather than later. Moving on here to the Weebomination. It's the Weeb unit for Patchwork here. Tier 3, buddy. It's a 6/6, so pretty big at its base level there. And Battlecry, give a minion +1 health for each health your hero is missing. So a way to make your own an Island Battlemaster, essentially. Find a poisonous and give it a ton of health and farm up your opponents. Just any key minion, some annoying taunt, whatever it might be, some cool effect you want to make sure sticks around on board, like a juggler or something. You could do it with Weebomination to make sure you're keeping that survivability high. And then the golden version, of course, just doubles that up. And this is cool. I like that it's a battle cry, so you don't have to commit to it long term. Maybe you hold it just to get that triple. Maybe not, though. Maybe you're happy to just play all these independently. But even if you do hold on to it, that 6/6 is a little better in the mid game, essentially, to help it kind of hang out. I will say one interesting thing is that often with Patchwork, you're kind of taking a greedy line, taking damage early, tearing up really fast. So you might charge your meter a little slower than with other heroes. This might come in a little late, especially that second wave. So the 6/6 may not be as competitive. It's kind of the opposite of Millhouse Mana Storm. So I'm really curious to see how that is going to impact this one's utility. Moving on here to test Greymane with a Hunter of Old, a tier 4 buddy. At the start of your turn, add your last opponent's buddy to your hand. So another test style effect, but instead of getting your opponent's board, you're getting their buddies. And sometimes that could be nuts. Like, right, if you get Patchworks there, I think you're pretty happy. You get like this free nice buff. Other times it's going to be totally useless. Like my Evs, for instance, it's just not going to actually function for you at all. If you look at that text again, right? It's your next hero power makes the target golden. Well, Test doesn't have a targeted hero power like that. I assume it'll just whiff and do nothing. So it's probably going to be very lobby dependent whether this actually gives you useful things. This is also going to come around pretty darn late for Test. I have a feeling this one's going to be hard to squeeze in. You very occasionally might hit absolute home runs with this and just line up perfectly, but I think it's going to be awkward more than useful very often, and kind of a dead card in many cases as well. So I wouldn't get your hopes up for Hunter of Old from a competitive standpoint, although it's probably going to be super fun. I can't wait to steal other people's like crazy buddies for some absurd high roll turn. Moving on here to Hook Tusk, we got the Raging Contender, Trash for Treasure. That's Hook Tusk's hero power. Offers 3 options instead of 2, which is basically what it used to do before it got nerfed, as I recall. And it was super OP then, and like you might say, oh, well, this is going to make it super OP again. Of course, the problem is you have to commit to a minion on board to make that happen. And this is a pretty low tempo minion. It's not exactly got a lot of onboard value. So is that sacrifice going to be worth it? I don't know. I don't really think it is. Hook Tusk is a great hero anyway. You may not really need this help, and the bump to flexibility or consistency, I guess, here doesn't really seem worth a pretty weak minion as far as I'm concerned, especially if you want to keep it around long enough for the Raging Contender. So I have a feeling this is like you use this once or twice and then ditch it pretty quick. Moving on here to Vol'jin, we've got Master Gadrin and big ol' 8/5 here. The end of your turn, adjacent minions copy this minion's attack. So cool target here with Vol'jin, swapping hero power, make something big, swap it onto Gadrin, and then essentially Gadrin can triple that effect up by, putting it on the 2 minions next to him. So, put it on big divine shields, cleaves, whatever it is, Gadrin can buff up your stuff pretty nicely. And if you golden him, he moves up to a 16/10. And this is one I feel like you're going to be able to keep around for a long time, because especially if you swap some big stats on him, he's not sacrificing anything. Essentially, you got the big stats on this thing that's got this key effect instead of whatever random thing you had buffed before. So he can stick around long term. You can move him into golden, and then he's not actually doubling in his golden version. I mean, you're getting the 8 bonus just from his stats doubling, but no doubling of the scaling of the effect. So that's probably important. It could have been absolutely crazy if he doubled up again, right? Like, that might be too much. So just normal golden value here for Master Gadrin, discovering your triple reward, but no additional upside. That said, I still think this one's really strong. I think being able to multiply your buffs 3 times is a big deal, particularly in certain comps that can utilize attack for whatever big effect. Moving on to patches here, we got the Tuskar Raider, new tier 3 4/4 battlecry. Give a minion +1/+1 for each pirate you played this game. So I like that this is a nice battlecry. That's pretty sweet. You can just play it and ditch it if you want. You don't have to hold it for the golden necessarily. And then, of course, if you get in the right sort of patches build, you get that Hogger composition running, you're cycling pirates like crazy. I've had games with Gallywix where, you got 20, 30 extra gold at the end of a turn. You did it a few times. You're looking at sometimes like maybe 60, 70 minions played in the late game for pirates. So this could do some just insane buffs. I mean, even the tier 3 pirate buffer that's based on pirates you buy, sometimes that's given 20/20 a turn. And this guy's the whole game, not just in a given turn. So I don't know how big the buffs on this are going to be, but you could brand this and you could golden it for +2/+2. Like, I wouldn't be shocked at all if people give like 100 buffs fairly reliably with Tuskar Raider. Now, getting the golden one's going to cost you because you got to hold on to this 4/4 for a while. This is a tier 3. May not always make sense, but man, the pop-offs sound absolutely crazy. Now, there's poison, of course. It's going to take the right lobby, maybe a no Murloc lobby. But when you can get those big stats, it's going to be really fun. Moving on to Bran here with Bran's Epic Egg, a tier 2 0/3 with Taunt and Death Rattle. Summon a random battlecry minion and add a copy of it to your hand. So some nice repeating value here for Bran. We've got some like Avenge cards with like West Wing Witch Matron. It's not West Wing, that's a TV show. You guys know the one I mean. Nest Wing Matron. That sounds more right. I don't know what it's called. The tier 4 get a battlecry on Avenge, right? It's pretty good build around sometimes. You want to farm Avenge. This kind of does that for you just in itself. It maybe doesn't get you multiple passbacks every time, but at least one. And then the golden version is going to actually give you 2 battlecry minions as well. So you've already got a brand off your hero power, and you're getting all these free battle cries. That can start to add up to both gold value, just because you're getting free stuff, and then also, the onboard battle cry effects upside as well. Some consistency issues with this sort of stuff all the time. Now, this is taking board spot. It is summoning the battle cry minion, though, so you're getting some kind of stats. They're going to be pretty small on average, of course. So a big sacrifice on board, but a lot of value and a lot of fuel can go a long way in Battlegrounds. So I wouldn't be shocked if this one's worth keeping around for a while. Moving on here to Dancing Daryl with Asher the Haberdasher. Great name. This is a tier 3 3/3 that reads, after you sell a minion, gain +1/+1. So normally, Daryl, you're selling stuff, buffing the shop, and then buying your big awesome thing. In this case, you're actually going to be buffing your board simultaneously, kind of doubling up on your cells. Now, this isn't quite as efficient as Daryl's hats, because that's +3/+3 per cell. This is only +1/+1, but it might help you shore up the mid game a little bit, where you take some of those downturns where you're buffing, but you aren't really scaling on board all that well, and you kind of have some gaps here and there. This could help you fill in there and get yourself like a nice 6/6, 10/10, 14/14 or whatever over a few turns. that keeps you alive essentially in the meantime, or keeps your health a little more tip top, which could help you move into late game builds more reliably with Daryl. Daryl almost never wins lobbies. Perhaps this gets you over that hump where you can take a little bit more risk and push a little harder with Daryl than you might otherwise do. But that said, of course, this doesn't have divine shields or other things that stats get extra value from. So Daryl's probably still going to want those sort of divine shield builds, and eventually I'd say have to ditch this guy. So next up, forgive these graphics. It's so hard to fit all this stuff on screen, especially next to my big head. But we're getting some new heroes as well, along with, of course, buddies. This is Vandar, for instance, with a new 0 mana hero power. Choose a friendly minion. It copies the health of your highest health minion for next combat only. So you get a big high health, an island battle master, whatever. You put it on a poisonous, you're happy. Or you just, add some survivability to your juggler. We already talked about this sort of stuff. Whatever key thing you want to stick around, that's a great way to give it some extra oomph. And then the Stormpike Lieutenant's a new Avenge buddy for Vandar here. Avenge 2, give your minions +1 health permanently, so helping you scale up the value for your hero power. And, combat buff that sticks here. I could see some really sticky, annoying, Murloc poison boards, or who knows what else, right? Just, I'm sure there are a few other ways to use this as well, but I like the idea of a buff that keeps rolling. And this has a really nice base stat line as well, so it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Combats are going to take forever to resolve because you have so much high health, but it should be fun. And then, of course, the gold version's +2 health on top of that. I feel like this is the sort of menu you might be able to leave around for a while to push into the golden state. It's going to be like an 8/100 or something at some point, farming enough Avenge. And then on the other side of this coin, we have Drekthar, of course, with another 0 mana hero power. This one copies the attack of your highest attack minion for the next combat only. And then the Frostwolf Lieutenant has swap stats here. Avenge 2, give your minions +1 attack permanently. And this may sound weird because they're obviously two sides of the same coin, but I do feel like I like the attack buffs more. They scale better with effects like Cleave and Divine Shields, where health isn't necessarily as important on, you can't triple it on a Cleave, for instance. So I do think I like Drekthar a little bit better here, and I don't hate this. There are certain Divine Shield compositions with the Blood Gem buffer thing that's here for that gives everybody plus attack for each Blood Gem that can succeed based purely on attack values. They don't worry so much about health totals. You could see something like this as well in certain mech compositions where buffing the attack is good enough. And again, not a high health total here on the Lieutenant, but might take some trades in the mid game just fine. Moving on, things get even more confusing looking with Tavish here, a new hero power called Deadeye. You take aim, which means you choose one of 4 options along the top there. And it's going to deal 1 damage to your target for the first turn, and then it's going to upgrade. So deal 2, deal 3, etc. And you can choose which target you're going to target each turn. So you can either deal 1 to the leftmost minion, the lowest health minion, the highest health minion, or the rightmost minion. So you might be able to snipe off, a juggler or a baron or something if it has the lowest health, for instance. You might have a big enough hero power that you just want to hit the highest health thing too, right? It's absolutely a possibility. We just want to get the most efficiency possible out of your hero power. Or you might want to snipe the rightmost thing, their leftmost thing, if it's a cleave or whatever. There's going to be some mind games here with your opponent kind of positioning around all this. And then we also have the buddy here, Krabby. After your hero power fires, give adjacent minions stats equal to the damage dealt. So if you get this up to 10 damage, for instance, Krabby's going to give +10/+10 to adjacent minions, which is actually pretty reasonably big buff. And now, I went to turn 10 there, essentially, which is fairly late game. But even in the mid game, like a 5/5 buff, this puts it on kind of I'd say similar spot to prized promo Drake as a tempo minion, and then Golden Krabby is going to give double the stats. So turn 12, you're looking +24, +24. That's actually sort of insane. Now it is just a combat buff, so it's just temporary for that combat, but that's still really, really significant. So I do think Krabby's the kind of minion that might be able to stick around for a long time because he kind of just keeps getting better as combats go on. This seems like both a cool hero power, a really fun one, and a very sick buddy as well. And then finally here we have Brucon, our last of the new heroes that were revealed today. And he's got a hero power called Embrace the Elements. You choose an element, and then start of combat, you call upon that element. Again, there are 4 of these that you can pick from. One is give 4 random friendly minions death rattle, summon a 1/1 elemental. Another is double your leftmost minion's attack. Another is give your rightmost minion +3 health and taunt. And another is deal 1 damage to 5 random enemy minions. So, some of these aren't going to do well in the late game, like Earth Invocation with the 1/1 elementals. Like, those mean nothing late in a run, but early on, they can be a lot of tempo or Avenge farm as well, essentially, if you're looking to do that. So still very powerful, just kind of falls off. Doubling your leftmost, great for cleave effects if you're looking for that. I think the least compelling for me is Water Invocation, give your rightmost minion +3 health and taunt. Like, that's sometimes a little bit of utility in a pinch, but ultimately not that much value. And then finally, a Lightning Invocation could be like a great Divine Shield counter, essentially. Maybe try to snipe 5 Divine Shields before combat starts. And then Spirit Raptor's really cool, the buddy for Brucon. After you call upon a new element, this remembers it. And Death Rattle, call upon those elements. Now, I presume this has to be on board to be remembering things. It's how we've seen other cards work in Standard with that kind of language. Which means, the longer and longer a game goes on, this guy could get kind of crazy. And just like, Lightning Invocation 10 times, for instance, actually starts to add up to quite a bit of damage. It becomes like a kaboom bot of sorts, especially if you have, say, like a Baron doubling these death rattles. And then the golden version, of course, is already doing it twice. So then Baron's scaling that even more. You can have just crazy machine gun Spirit Raptor going off that's also like buffing a minion and giving stuff health and doubling its attack. Like, there could be some crazy stuff happening. I don't know how good that's going to be. It's hard to imagine how consistent that'll feel, but it's going to be super duper fun. I'm actually really excited to try that out. So that said, there you go. Those are your new heroes and your new Battlegrounds buddies. I'm just a meager 8.5K Battlegrounds player right now. I'm a peak, 10,600 MMR, I think. So, I don't know if I can give you the best insights. I do watch a lot of Battlegrounds and still play currently. Like I said, I'm 8,500 right now. So, I think I have some insights here and there of value, but of course, the most important thing and what I can offer you is that these look really fun. Like, a lot of these seem like they're going to be super cool to play with. So I'm actually really excited to hop into Battlegrounds next week when all of this starts to hit. That said, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on all of these different Battlegrounds buddies. You're going to play this stuff. You're going to watch me play this stuff if I post videos next week. I hope so, because I'm planning to. So, look forward to all this. And I think there's going to be a lot more reveals over the next day or something, or day or two. So stay tuned for future recap videos like these, reviewing and sort of exploring all these new minions. That's it. Thanks for watching. And until next time, game on. Step aside. Emerge.